Hey everyone, the Nerd Frenzy podcast here,
We're here.
aka Nick. How's it going? How's it going,
Did you
Brent?
say that to yourself? Did you introduce yourself and then say, Nick, I'm doing great.
Oh,
After that, I'm A
I'm
plus
so
work.
egotistical.
Oh, that was good. That's a good lead in, dude. That's a great. How you doing, Nick? I'm doing great. Brent's good
Esteem.
to see you again. Yeah, I'm a big fan. A big fan of that. A plus work,
Oh,
brother.
they're gonna be like, that was such a fake little way he opened it. And he goes,
Uh,
oh, he has layers. That's all it
yeah,
is.
he's deep. He's like an onion. He peels himself back. It's impressive.
That's right.
Oh, it's good to see you,
Oh,
bud. I look forward again. We mention this every podcast, and I'm going to mention it.
mhm,
And I don't care if people get sick of it. I look forward to this every week. I always
mhm,
get to. It's weird. It drifts in and out of my mind a bit until like an hour before the show, and then I'm like, oh shit, I get to hang out with Nick here for like an hour in
mhm,
like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and I'm freaking out and I'm excited. And then the call happens, and then I get really giddy. Then I have to pee.
mhm,
I know
mhm.
that's everybody want to know that I have to pee before every podcast. And then I get to kind of just get caught up with you. I mean, and again, we don't go too deep, but it's just nice to be like, hey, how you doing? Is everything okay? And just to hear stuff off the air so you can be, the real extra genuine Nick with me. And so we can talk about little extra stuff that doesn't have to get, delved into here. So it's cool, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, my friend. I was just talking about what we heard about the Gina Carano situation,
Yeah, for our
and
starter.
yeah, it's crazy. It just happened. What, yesterday? Was it? Yeah,
Uh,
last night actually, I
Last
believe,
night,
late
yeah,
last
because it
night.
was this morning the whole thing broke. Like the whole
Yeah, I
thing.
remember my friend David Saminsky. He messaged me and he goes, "Dude, did you hear? They just canceled her." And 5 minutes before that, my wife Araceli, she goes, "Hey, I think she's in some trouble right now." And I'm thinking, "Oh, she's been in trouble this whole time."
Mm-hmm.
But then when I got that message from David a few minutes later, it said that Lucasfilm themselves already had a little.
Blurp and everything. Yeah. Like she's
Yeah,
no longer
yeah, they
employed.
already were putting it on all the popular news sites and everything, so it was official.
Yeah.
And there's obviously there's politics and everything involved too. There's silly tweets that she put out. There's maybe a little bit, I guess maybe I feel like a Disney and Lucasfilm's just a little bit of hypocrites, but there's so much politics to everything. Pedro Pascal, you're telling me about
Mm-hmm.
uh, his sister, and there's just so much going on, and I'm excited to talk to you about it, Brent.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess to cut through anybody who wants to dive into this is the long and short of it is pretty simple. She's had some hot water for some tweets, just
Mm-hmm.
generally expressing her stuff about transgender and things like that, and all that kind of stuff. And I personally, as I reread what she had posted originally, I wasn't too offended.
Yeah, I wasn't either. She said that there's certain, like, she doesn't want to start using certain pronouns and stuff
Yeah,
like
she didn't
that.
want.
Which,
She long story short,
yeah,
she didn't want to put it on her profile or whatever. And I personally don't care. And let me be clear in this statement: if you identify as whatever, for me personally, great. I don't care. You can be him, she, they, her, it. I literally don't care. If you're not hurting anybody, I don't give a shit. And that's kind of with her. It's her personal choice. She wants to put her pronouns on there, put them on there. And the reason people encourage her to do that, by the way, the reason that is a thing, in case you don't know, is like to show solidarity with the trans community, right? To show what you like to be identified as. Because obviously, if I identify as male, and if I'm walking around and someone's going, hey, look at that girl, look at that girl, look at that girl all day, yeah, it's going to fucking irritate me. I'm a guy, you know what I'm saying? So I get it. I track it. Long story short, she put a tweet saying, hey, that's not me, whatever else. Then this recent one, so that was her first little hot water incident. Her co-star Pedro Pascal talked to her a little bit, kind of got her sorted out a little, and she learned a little bit from it, which was really cool to see. Now we come up to the mask thing and coronavirus, and then we come up to her conservative views and everything like that. And she kind of does this long ranting set of tweets, and collectively she basically makes a very terrible analogy, a very, very poor analogy that basically having your conservative views is like being a Jew during the Holocaust. You are so attacked and everything else. So that's not a great, not not a good analogy. You can find 100 better ones
it's
out
a
of a
little,
hat.
it's a little rough. It's a little
Yeah.
rough, but I think where you and I probably agree, my friend, is that people are doing this stuff all day, every day, and there's nothing happening to them, left side, right side,
I think it's
and
a little
there's certain
extreme as a
people.
reaction. I
Yeah,
think as yeah.
yeah, and we need this oversensitivity and everything. Why can't people just peacefully just put out there like, hey, I disagree with what you were saying. I mean, and simple as that. Not like, hey, I think we should start a riot and cause everyone to destroy your career. I mean, and Brent, you and I, we differ on many things, but one thing that we definitely don't differ on is just the concept of love and the idea of having opinions in the first place. And I find it to be a little, I don't know, just it's a bummer that some of these celebrities and just normal people, in fact, a lot of it's happened to a lot of people, they get destroyed for making a small mistake or whatnot. And I don't know,
yeah.
Gina she does, she likes to push the envelope a little bit, but they all do.
Yeah.
Celebrities, like, they like to put their narrative out, and it's either accepted by half the people or it's not accepted by half the people, and it sucks, but yeah.
It's kind of insane. My statement is this. I kind of have 3 layers of this. Number 1, I don't think we lose necessarily a lot as a Star Wars fan. I'm just going to start there. I understand maybe she was going to do a spin-off and stuff. My personal opinion is her character wasn't that developed or that deep that I really cared to go watch her independently. So I don't think on that end we lost a lot. Secondary part is, look, I get she said something stupid to a certain degree. I track. But at the same time, and it's not to excuse the statement. There should be an apology for the statement because it's a stupid fucking statement. Like, just flat out. If we can just agree that is a terrible analogy, just because it's an easy analogy to reach for, you should not be making it, just to start. Now, she has conservative views and everything else. Great, that's fine. You're completely entitled to land on that side of whatever line. That's totally cool. And perhaps all that was necessary was like hey, you know what? You guys are right. This was maybe a really terrible analogy. I'm going to go ahead and remove it out of here, and we're going to move forward from there, and it was just a bad analogy. I think that would have been more than an acceptable statement, because I think you are right. I think there are plenty of people, left, right side, whatever. I mean, listen to Bill Maher, dude. That dude is incredibly left, and he tweets some really wild shit. And it's like,
when he talks shit about Stan Lee, it broke my heart a little bit.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. But like, that's the point, right?
I mean,
like,
come on, let's be honest.
Yeah, but that's the point, right? It seems like sometimes, and we're maybe in a bit of a climate that allows a certain side right now to express itself a little more freely, maybe. And I use that very lightly.
Social media is the design, of course.
Yeah, and so I just think with her, maybe the reaction to firing her from Lucas and everything was a little extreme. That being said, her statement was extreme, and she certainly, at the very least, owed some semblance of an apology, and maybe she should. It's cool if you have your thoughts, but sometimes it's not great to always just spit them out on social media when you're a celebrity, or just anybody. Maybe share that stuff with your friends, like when you and I talk. We have different views on so much things, but we talk between us. We talk amongst us. So if we get a point where we're heated or we're upset or whatever, we are not seeing eye to eye, it's a conversation for you and I to be having. It's not a conversation for us to be, a podcast, for example. We don't bring that stuff or whatever it may be out for the universe to see. We talk between us. And maybe that's the point. Maybe social media is great to do fun and exciting things and say what your projects are into and make jokes and everything else. Maybe as anybody, you should maybe take a moment before you're like, all right, I'm really going to charge this conversation here. I'm going to say something despairing about masks or about a state or about whatever topic that's currently a little hot. Maybe you should really consider that. And that's, again, the response was maybe a little extreme in firing her. She should maybe just take a moment. I don't know. What do you think? Did we
Brent,
lose something, or is that?
Yeah. No. And Brent, I'm following what you're saying. I concur completely what you're saying. I think I talked about this with you a little bit earlier. I think my biggest problem is not necessarily how she feels, how the people themselves feel about what she said, but I am tired of companies like Disney and Lucasfilm acting like they're on this pretty much this high little totem pole, that they're the moral arbiters. They are the judgments. Like there's God, and then there's Disney, and those kind of situations. And I was telling you about this before, how they're saying stuff like this. We do not like this, that abhorrent things she was saying. But these are the same people who want to make a lot of money in China, so they take the Rise of Skywalker picture and they take Finn, John Boyega's picture, and they like make it really small because a lot of Chinese people aren't a fan of Black people. And the contradicting views is kind of sometimes anytime like Disney says something, I just want to look at them and go, guys, you guys have been kind of like the preachers for the bad for a long time, but you try to act like the good, like the Ellen DeGeneres. That's what you guys are doing.
Yeah, like a lot of big companies are not a great place to put any moral right compass. Like, don't align your moral compass by Disney by any means. I mean, we don't want to talk about like the list of shit that place, what they do as a company.
Is it's hard not to, because that's what you and I grew up on, that moral compass of they're making their movies, the good guys, does an honorable thing, even though he does a sacrifice that's a pain in the ass. And then you find out that the company, and it's just the thing of growing up too. Don't be naive, but when you grow up, you wake up and you realize that you're in the matrix. So you step out and every once in a while look around going, oh my gosh, there's a lot of weird corruption, and including Disney, which is maybe the most corrupt. I don't know. But.
No, I mean, and I think you're right. I don't think, I think it definitely lands on that idea of a PR move. Like I said, it's a little extreme, right? It's a little extreme to be like, okay, and again, there have been people who have made many worse statements who have suffered drastically minor consequences compared to this. Right. It's just, I don't view them as like the moral arbiter, but I do see their stance, pretty sudden, pretty aggressive in just immediately Xing. Again, it's a touchy. It's definitely not that it's not touchy. What she said is you don't wander into Holocaust territory. You just don't fucking touch it. And that's just a rule. Like, it is so easy to reach for that anytime anybody feels oppressed, because it's such an extreme case of evil and awful. And you can, look, I'm under this umbrella of whatever. And that doesn't mean you should ever reach for it, because it's not nearly the same thing. So I just don't understand why Lucasfilm... I do understand the reaction. I just hope maybe in like a week we get a little bit of come down. You know what I'm saying? Because I just...
Hey, the come down. Remember with the Sony Marvel situation where they said, okay, I think Marvel was kind of pissing off Sony, and then Sony said, okay, you can't have Spider-Man anymore. And then the actor, he was like, I guess he got drunk and he called up the Sony president and said, hey, let's just fix this. And I guess it kind of did. Which, those kind of stories are fun to hear, and I hope that happens. But the problem though, Brent, is, which this has been kind of happening since I think last season, she's been talking about it, and then you have everyone else chime in, and of course, and then it's just politics and religion are those two things that they tell you since you're a baby, don't bring up in a conversation unless it's something that's like-minded, because if you don't, then guess what? Egos will be broken. I mean, test will happen, and most people can't handle it, sadly.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, though, right? It's not the thing, and again, it's not really the political view she shares per se that's the issue. It is definitely one of those things, because it's a hot climate where certain things are allowed to kind of run rampant right now, and her, beyond everything else, this comes down to the idea of, again, reaching for this terrible thing. Like, it's a problem, and you just can't do it, and it falls so far away from just a political idea, because she's the one generating the issue on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's the one with the analogy. And she could have said, again, anything else. You could have been saying anything else to just...
Yeah, she could say, like, hey, support Black Lives Matter or something.
Yeah, I support Black Lives Matter, but I feel...
But that's rough, though, my friend, because people, for some weird reason, maybe not you and I, but people, for some reason, like to put diaries out on social media, which I guess is fine. But
yeah, it's fine.
Sometimes when they put their garbage on it, and I hear about two people fighting back and forth and mess on Facebook, and I'm just seeing this conversation, and it's disgusting. It sometimes just it makes me just wish that we could all just have a certain, like, go back to how things used to be.
Well, before then we didn't have like the immediate access to either people who agreed or disagreed with us, but the idea of like just being like, okay, separate the artist from the art kind of thought, okay, so she's conservative. Do I like her character enough to continue to invest in this individual because I want to see her succeed? You got to make that call as an individual at that point.
Sure,
like that's,
sure.
And I think that's what this really comes down to on two sides. Again, and I could hammer on that. Just, ladies and gentlemen, don't make a stupid fucking analogy. Just don't do it. Just don't. If you feel like you're being persecuted, take 10 seconds, look up what persecution is, and then be like, hey, you know what? People don't like my thoughts currently, but that's not happening to me where I'm being murdered and stuff for who I am. That being said, all you have to do is just say, you know what? Okay, they don't agree with me. I don't agree with her. I don't whatever. It's okay to just walk away from something. You can just let it go. You can let it go and walk away. And like I said, you can still enjoy their work and everything else to a certain degree if you feel comfortable with that as your own internal personal moral compass, as, okay, I disagree with everything she is or whatever, but I really like watching her act and play, so I'm still going to support her. You can do that. That's great. You can be that person. You can also be the person who says, ooh, I didn't like what she tweeted, and just don't go back. That's completely fine. And that's...
Yes.
That's why this is such an extreme case.
Are completely normal.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's why this is so weird to me at the same time, that a firing is really extreme. I think a firing is extreme. because I still am a huge fan of free speech. She didn't say anything where she was attacking anybody. She wasn't going apeshit on anybody or making any threats or anything that like crossed the realm of free speech. She just said something stupid, and it's okay to say, "Hey, come on, fucking stop," and then move on.
It's like with Kevin Hart's situation when he said like 12 years ago about how he doesn't want his kid to grow up homosexual. He said it in a sillier way than that, but that's pretty much what he said. And I remember thinking like, first of all, and he said, "Hey guys, I apologize for that 12 years ago, and you guys are bringing it up now and trying to destroy me." And I remember thinking like, well, first of all, I mean, you and I, Brent, disagree with that, but he has every right to say that. And I felt like it's just to be able to cancel someone, destroy their lives because they disagree with what you and I think. That's fucked up.
Yeah. Again, you don't have to like it by no means. Again, if Kevin Hart, let's say he didn't even apologize. Let's just say for the sake of right, he didn't apologize. He said that. He said, no, I mean it, and that's that. You as a person have everything to go, I don't like that, and just don't support him anymore. It's that easy.
Absolutely.
It's not a complicated process. And that's,
yes, if you don't support something, it goes away. It's simple as that. If not people say, "Oh, Kevin Hart to me is a bad guy. I don't support him," and they stop with following him and whatnot. Next thing you know, he's not very popular anymore. And then
he's like Ted Nugent. Won. That's what it makes me think of. It makes me think it's like he's around and Ted Nugent's still doing stuff. He's still Ted Nugent. It's just I don't think he's put out a hit in many moons, and that's fine.
His politics is what keeps him going somewhat strong.
But but because he's very wacky. He's a wildcat. Ted Nugent's a wildcat. Fun. He's
fun to listen to. He's like watching Jerry Springer.
Yeah. Oh, dude, did you know he actually interrupted a robbery once? Do you know that?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, look that up. It's wild. I don't have the whole story off the top of my head. But yeah, he was at a gas station in Texas, and someone was robbing it. And so Ted Nugent pulled out his big one. He has a giant revolver or some shit because he's a fucking psycho cowboy. So yeah, and he stopped the robbery. It's the whole thing. But
he didn't put him in a stranglehold?
No, okay. Ted Nugent said, "I will shoot you." Don't get out. Don't even make that face. Don't even.
That's a good one. That's a good dad joke for you. And I need you to go, "Oh, Nick, you are a delight."
Nick, you are a delight. Oh,
stop, Brent. You're embarrassing. Anyways, stop, man. Jeez, I'm trying to do a podcast here.
You're right.
Man.
I'm sorry. That's on me. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's what's going on with her, and I'd love to hear how people feel about it. Just whether they're
the thing is there's just different sides to it. I think what happened, Brent, is I think that she's starting to feel like a lot of people, conservative or just anything, they're starting to feel like things like freedoms are kind of being poked at by the government. And I think they're just getting a little scared because I know I get a little scared at times. Like, well, what's this new change, new president, how this left versus right's been. I've never seen anything like it before, and maybe it has been like this many times. Maybe that's how the Civil War kind of happened. But I guess it's scary times for us, man, because we're going through a weird pandemic and then cancel culture and Me Too movements and all these things, and a lot of them are good. But then they get taken too far and they start destroying, somewhat decent people just from hearsay. And it's sometimes very disgusting.
It is. But I mean, like I said, like look at the last, just for the sake of argument, look at the last 6 years, right? Just collectively. It's been, social media has just become a more and more volatile place. And that's from 100 different areas, 100 different things, But long story short, it has become, freedom of speech has become this weird thing where we're allowed to consistently, and we should be allowed to consistently kind of say and do all this other stuff, but at the same time, we're allowed to put, a whole bunch of bullshit out there at the same time. We're allowed to talk directly out of our ass and claim it to be 100% true, and then, boy, we don't like it when, it's not true, or it turns out that something all of a sudden comes up that disagrees with us, and that's just human nature, I guess, that we get a little volatile.
I think it's always been that way.
And I think that just part of this is that. I think with maybe the way the political climate has finally shifted, people who are not of the alignment, let's just, for the sake of argument, we'll just say people on a more conservative side or more an extremism of the conservative side feel more attacked right now. I just think they feel that way because, again, the political climate has shifted. And that's just how the U.S. works, by the way. We're a pretty intense pendulum system. We tend to go left and then we tend to go right. That's what we tend to do. And actually, in our chat, Scooty Jr. put, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequence. And I agree. That's what I think. I think you can say real stupid shit, and if there are consequences, they should equate to the thing you've said. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Proud Boys are like on a terrorist list. And they kind of should be now because of like the way they speak and behave and all that other stuff. And then you get all these people like, I'm a Proud Boy. But I'm not long story short, they're a super right, intense group of white male individuals who are very proud to be white males. And that's not the point. The point is, it's the way they spoke. It's
Well,
actions
I'd
they
like to hope that we're all very
encouraged.
proud to be what we are, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they should just be proud to be who you are. That's fine. But the issue comes if you encourage or incite violence or encourage or incite intense action. If there are consequences to the way you're speaking, that is freedom of speech, and again, freedom of consequence. You are, if you're gonna say something, stand behind it and be ready for the shit that follows. And that's kind of where we are with her a little bit. She said some things, so now she either needs to stand behind it and accept the shit that follows, or she just needs to say, "Hey, my bad." And we all just grow. We all learn, and there's nothing wrong with growing. And I think that's all the weird thing is like.
I hope that we are growing from this, Brent.
That's
really
me too, right? Because is it, Nick, it's not a bad thing to say. It's never a bad thing to have anything happen in your life that you walk through and go, hey, I could have done better. I could have been different. It could have been better. I should have started. There's nothing wrong with reevaluating and growing as a person. There is no shame in that. There should never be encouraged shame. And I think that's the climate for everyone right now is like, if I'm not right, well, I can't not be right. You know what I'm saying? And that's anywhere. That's for anyone.
I've noticed on a small scale, Brent, when I get in fights with my wife and she brings up something that I've never at all once like thought of, and just kind of, and that's whenever it literally is the most uncomfortable for me and the most like, she's wrong 100%. How dare her? And then of course you start doing the thinking, and then all of a sudden a new part of you comes out, and then a new open part, and then next thing you know, you're being a better
you're
husband.
being right. And I think this is a perfect,
I guess,
like you said, this is a perfect example of, I think we have a real chance to say, okay, she sees what she did. Hopefully she apologizes and we can all move on and they can reinstate her. Those who really love her maybe get their sequel back or their spinoff and stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with that in this scenario. I really don't. And I really hope that's the case, because I agree with you, Nick. We need to grow as people and we can all be better. And this is just a perfect example for everybody. Even if you're like, again, if you don't like what she said, then you can just say, okay, I'm done supporting this individual. And you've grown. You've become, you're not over there assaulting somebody on the internet because they're on another fence from you. You're just letting it go, and that's okay. And then alternatively for her, hopefully maybe she'll be like, hey, you know what? Boom. Bad call. Bad call on my end, guys. It will not happen again. And who does that hurt? Do we have to fire people over that? I don't think so. I don't think that's
the one thing though, Brent, is I want everyone to be real. Don't get me wrong. I want everyone to be real, but I also want everyone to be kind. There's no reason, like I'm a huge supporter of Ben Shapiro, but one thing I do not like about Ben Shapiro is his whole facts don't have feelings thing. Sometimes it just like, because I'm a very sensitive person, and even though I find him to be biologically correct or whatnot, I don't find his idea of trying to think about that person's, like trying to be empathetic or sympathetic with them. That's too bad. But politics, my friend.
Yeah,
politics.
They're messy, man. They're messy and they're dirty. But if you guys want to check it out, that's what's going on. What's her name? What's her
Gina Carano.
Gina Carano. Thank you. Check it out and see what you guys think. It's the most recent in just an upheaval, I guess.
Last night, my friends, it happened. Yeah, it kind of, and like I said, like, if you said everything wonderful tonight, that I think the best thing you said is this will hopefully cause something good.
Yeah, I would rather just watching people grow is much better than watching us just go for each other's throats. I think.
Absolutely.
I think that's just a better outcome. Well, Nick, hey, how do we do on that on time? Okay, 30 minutes. 30 minutes isn't too bad. We in like 28 or so.
Usually like 45 minutes.
Yeah, we nailed it. But now we get to go to the meat of tonight's conversation, the actual heart. And this is something I'm excited to hear you talk about, because we are both really, really big fans of Mr. Quentin Tarantino. I think, almost everything that guy has touched is gold. The only thing I'm not a fan of, and it's I need to probably sit down and watch him for the 9th time. The Kill Bill series is not my favorite series of his. And my only statement here, and I wanted to start here because I want to hear your where it is in your scale of Quentin Tarantino work. Kill Bill is great. Kill Bill is very good. I don't find a lot of the conversations, minus the one she has with Bill, as engaging as most of Tarantino's work, which is why it just sits on a lower level for me for all of his work. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing this right. But I just want you to know, out the gate, Kill Bill is not within my realm of like God tier work by Tarantino. What do you think? Where do you?
I like what you say. One thing is he kind of meant for that to happen. He was going for an old gritty kind of samurai feel, and he wanted his villains before to kind of be corny to some degree, which which Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, a couple of those kind of directors, every once in a while, they love that corniness on purpose thing.
Oh yeah,
But but uh, but if
Rodriguez.
you
Yeah,
yeah, if you hear a lot of the conversations, they're very over the top, like which all of his conversations are. But I see what you're saying. They kind of well, I've read Lucy Liu's character. I thought her character held a lot of weight when she was talking.
I thought
But
she was okay. I didn't think she really. That's the thing. I can remember a lot of stuff in the other films where actors steal the show. Steve Buscemi steals.
In every movie,
Well, every movie, but particularly he steals in Reservoir Dogs. That's
Mr. Pink.
Mr. Pink. He steals that show, and he has like he only is in there for like what, maybe 1/4 of the film in total, maybe.
He's one of the first people to get killed.
Yeah, and he as soon as he's on screen, he just absolutely takes it away. And I think that being said, though, watching the conversations and all the other scenes from that movie they're just so much stronger to me than Kill Bill.
Oh no, and I get what you're saying. I think the reason why
You
Kill
don't need
Bill
to
is
illustrate
still
character.
and my dad would agree, it's his favorite Quentin movie. It's not mine. Mine's obviously Pulp Fiction, but with Kill Bill, I think the biggest thing that keeps it feeling nice and refreshing is revenge.
And I think from our chat here, Scoop Puff Jr. Esquire just said Kill Bill is more narrative than his other films, so you don't need dialogue to illustrate a character. And I think Kill Bill is a good example of that. I think we watched the character of the bride progress just through. I mean, she doesn't really talk a whole lot. She doesn't have a lot of sit-down conversations. And again, most of the stuff she has,
she's the Clint Eastwood, like,
and she's here to beat your ass. Like that's it. Like that's her. She shows up. If you share words, there are about 6 of them. Then it's straight throwing hands. It's time to fight. And again, please don't roast me, internet. I just don't think Kill Bill is a strong of a film. I think it's still a fun film to watch, certainly. Some of the action sequences are fantastic. I think his directing, particularly obviously with the Crazy 88s, is, from that, the way he did the blood effects to show on that glass floor and the shots he does from below and above are very, very good. Very good action sequences, in fact. Rarely done from the top or the bottom because you just obviously don't feel like you get as much visual cue of what's happening, but he nailed it, I thought. I think he does a really good job.
I think also one thing that we don't really see a lot in those kind of movies is just the respect that it was showing for the samurai sword and just for the samurai in general.
Oh, yeah.
And how like it showed that whole patience of her master, and how Daryl Hannah, I forget her character's name. She was another snake, but Daryl Hannah, she would.
Yep, go ahead.
Copperhead.
Yeah, that sounds right. Copperhead sounds
how
right.
How she kind of betrayed her master. She got her eye taken out, and it just kind of shows that whole. First of all, Quentin Tarantino does something where he'll take any kind of culture and he'll bring all of his awesomeness and realism to it, and almost no one will like, for example, most of his movies, including him, he has said the N-word in Pulp Fiction when he says, "Don't bring that N-word, from the car into my garage," blah blah blah. And I'm thinking, like, he's saying this to Samuel Jackson and the world, and most people can't do that. But Quentin Tarantino has a certain charm with his dialogue, he has a gift with his writing and with his character development, with his everything, and you can get away with anything.
I think part of that film, that part it's so successful too, and I think it's important to annotate probably, is like there is something about that guy fixing their situation that they were reliant on him. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think maybe that's part of why he's able to say
the wolf.
Yeah, he's able to say and do what he does with those 2 individuals because he is so necessary to them. They need him so bad that he can absolutely do just in terrible, terrible social faux pas, just be awful. And they're just have to eat shit and smile because they're stuck. And I think that's one of the things in films for him that you can watch. Because I remember watching that film 3 or 4 times. And I just remember every time that scene is up, I'm just like, oh my God, dude, what the hell is happening right now? You can stop. Like, why? And then retroactively, I look back and I'm like, because he's a piece of shit. The guy's an asshole. He's a piece of shit, but they need him. What else were they going to do? And I think that's...
And then they're a piece of shit to other people in the movie because they would not dare. Like, in the very first time you see him, they're doing a little thing where they walk up to the guy and they're talking about the Kahuna burger, and they have a gun and they're intimidating as can be, but then to someone else, they're now like oh, just save us, please save us.
Yeah.
And then they put them in those little like shorts and t-shirt, little vacation looking, and they're just like they're embarrassed. John Travolta and Samuel Jackson just wearing the little clothes, and they're not gonna say shit because they know that the wolf.
What is that guy? I gotta make sure that's him. Crystal says she doesn't think that's who it is, but I think that's who it is. The Bonnie situation. That's the one. Where is... Hey, we gotta look this up because I'm almost sure it is. I'm almost sure it's Tarantino.
Who's Pai Mei? Crystal? Saying Pai Mei don't tolerate shit.
That's the master. Pai Mei. Don't tolerate shit. Snatch his eyes out of skulls, bro.
Oh, good for you. Okay. Yeah, she's got it going. I love how Crystal comes every once in a while and gives us, she's our guide.
Dude, she has so much stuff, and that's why I have to look at this right now, because I'm almost certain that's Quentin Tarantino saying, does this house look like bad words? Where is he? Oh my god, it's killing me. I gotta find this. Yeah, Jimmy. Jimmy. That's Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy. That's his name is Jimmy.
Yeah, that's him. That's totally Tarantino.
He has the coffee. He has the coffee because his wife buys that shitty coffee, and he goes and gets it. And every single time someone drinks his coffee, he goes, oh, "This is good." And then he's like, "I know how good this coffee is." And it's like, I get this coffee.
The fucking coffee is. Yeah. He's such
and the wolf comes in. The wolf comes in later on, and he drinks the coffee. He goes, Yeah. Yeah. Just kind of just a little nod. Just kind of just makes my body just constantly have little giddy moments. Like Quentin Tarantino, you make me laugh and you make me cringe at the same time.
He builds tension so well too. And again, I know we're hammering on Pulp Fiction, but I think Pulp Fiction is one of the best ones because
I think it's like I said, top 3 best movies of all time.
It's
top
so
3.
good. The robbery in the diner, a really great example. We're all sitting here listening to these guys bullshit after this whole scenario. They're sitting at a diner, they're bullshitting and talking, and then the diner gets robbed. And it becomes this incredibly tense situation because those two individuals literally just got done killing people. It's what they do, and now they have these unhinged individuals robbing the place, and you don't know who to feel more tense for. I don't know who I'm worried about in that scene ever. If I'm worried about Jackson or if I'm worried about Pumpkin. You know what I'm saying?
Because I think Jackson, just because he had a revelation.
Yeah, oh man, I love when he's talking to me. He's like, "You need some badass shit to say to a motherfucker," you know? Oh my god, what a scene! What a way to talk. And again, that's Tarantino. I mean, look at another great Hateful Eight. Hateful Eight is some of the best dialogue. I mean, if you're gonna write a film and you want to captivate your audience, you had better go study Hateful Eight dialogue because
it's a shame, Brent, because I guess that the script was stolen and then he had to rewrite it, and he said it was not near as good as the original script.
That blows my mind because
I would have loved to see the original script.
We got General. Oh man, what's his name? That actor who is he's the sheriff in that film, or the soon-to-be sheriff of that nearby town, and was a Confederate, and he's just he pushes buttons. That dude pushes buttons and gets everybody feisty. What is his name?
Which in
Hateful Eight. Yeah. Oh my god, Hateful Eight.
Is it the old man?
No. He's the guy who really likes the old man. Oh my god, what's his name?
I've seen the movie once. To be honest with you, Brent, I think that's probably my least favorite Quentin Tarantino
Walton
movie.
Goggins, is that it?
Walter Goggins is great at everything. Whenever in Django, he's like, say the Django, and he's like,
Mannix.
The D is Silent Hillbilly.
Yeah, but that's a really good one. We're like watching that character stir the pot, but not in a way where like you easily could stir the pot and cause tension in there by just using the N-word like they do. However, it's very careful when he sits there and he goes, "General," and he just gets real close and he encourages this general to talk about his time in the war, knowing it's a very intense topic, and he just constantly puts pressure in the conversation for everyone, and he keeps the whole room on edge. And again, it's Tarantino's writing that does this, but they keep that whole room on edge through the dialogue. Everybody is just waiting for things to go wrong, for it to boil over too far. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating cinema. It's great cinema because there are how many action movies, how many other movies have you seen throughout a year, and a Tarantino film drops, and for at least a week, you can recite the entire conversation out of it. You could talk to another person who went and saw it with you.
I can still talk probably about, I'd say out of those 10 movies, I can probably quote 6 of them very well.
Yeah, and
most people like Steven Spielberg and Tim Burton, all these people, I could probably quote a couple. So it's the power of the Quentin.
And I think another thing we should maybe talk about is, I mean, his camera work. he has a lot of still shots. He keeps things centrically focused on the characters, generally speaking, what's going on in the area. Really narrowed down to the individuals having conversation. He also does very wide shots. He does a lot of very like full screen shots. And obviously you can look at Reservoir Dogs and the whole film is shot in a warehouse, basically. There's a scene in a car, there's a scene at a diner, and a scene at a mob house. And then basically it's a warehouse from there on in. You get about 5 scenes and it's mostly warehouse, where it's about 3 or 4 characters at any given time talking. And yet he uses that space in such a fascinating way. The scene where obviously the cop gets tortured is, I think, one of the most claustrophobic scenes for an open space I've ever seen. It's watching him dance around that cop while he cuts him and listens to the song,
singing in the ear and everything.
It's so uncomfortable that as he slowly kind of dances closer, I think we as the audience tend to feel, I personally feel like constrained. I feel like it's too tight. I feel like there's not enough. I need release. I want to run from that scene because of how intense and how personal it is.
The camera won't leave us alone. It just says, hey, no, we're gonna glorify this, and we're gonna show like a little bit of what other movies are gonna stop showing you.
And then what's also neat is that the shot is wide. The shot starts wide, and it starts with the song coming up, him dancing and shimmying around, and it's a fairly wide shot, and it's fascinating to see. You have all this empty warehouse space. Even as they close in with him moving and everything, there's still all this empty, not used space for a very long time, and yet the scene still provides us this sense of claustrophobia, this sense of terror, and I think that's fascinating. I think as a director, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how.
And there's so many scenes too, Brent. I could probably name 50 of those kind of scenes. I feel like, even though Pulp Fiction is my favorite, maybe my favorite scene of any Quentin movie is that scene with Christoph Waltz with that French guy in the opening of Inglourious Bastards.
Oh,
they're smoking the pipe and everything. It's like the longest 8 minutes of my life.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's nerve wracking. You want to rip your skin off. It's so awful. You want a way out. You want out. So
the Jews are hiding, and you just like, oh, they're gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine. And then Christoph Waltz with his witty, charming, charismatic, but yet annoying persona. It was clever and
it's charismatic and it's terrifying because he's an SS, so he's a bad person, and that his mind works in an insidious and terrible way. And just having him have this, it's such a sharp conversation because you can literally cut the tension in the room just between those two. He sits down across from him, he's having a cigarette, he's having his conversation, and the other guy is just bolted to his chair. Yeah,
he's trying his best to be cool, but
you
then,
can feel it.
Christoph Waltz starts talking to him, and he starts shaking him, and by the end of it, he just like, the guy starts like tearing up. He's trying his best. He starts tearing up because he's about ready to betray all these people.
It's a dark emotional moment for the individual, and he cracks. But it's one of those things where when he does it, it's so gentle, and the guy, and his response, where he just, he has a cigarette, and he gets up, and he goes out, and it's so peaceful, and yet what's coming is so violent and awful. But that's that's Tarantino, right? Like that's his he plays these juxtapositions against each other so much, or these opposing ideas that you see as the watcher coming in. You're given, it's not going to go well. You have done the math, it's coming, and he's just pulling teeth on you until it happens. And there's that sense of tension and release that finally comes. But there are so many directors that, unless they're doing like a really passionate project, they don't do that. But Tarantino somehow has squeezed that into all of his films. Every one of them has got a taste of that somewhere. And again, it's a taste where like you remember the scene vividly. You remember how it feels. Like, again, I just watched Fury, and what a masterpiece of a film. What a great film.
Fury, excellent.
But it's a super serious war film, and so you expect it to be you expect a lot of the scenes that come. You're expecting them. And it's okay. It keeps you on edge and it keeps you tense, but at the same time, comparatively to a Tarantino film, I just sat through Fury going, oh man, here it comes. I could smile and I could see because I knew and I felt comfortable, just even though there were terrible situations. I watched Tarantino and I'm like, get out, get me the hell out of here. I can't do this. Leave those poor people alone. Get the hell out. Or the bar scene in Inglourious Bastards. Yeah. Oh my God. The three?
He put the thing on his forehead and the guy's sitting there, I'll take 3 or whatever he does.
And you don't know. And the best part about that scene is you don't know what went wrong, but you feel the shift.
Because you're an American guy going, well, it looked fine to me.
And you're like, what's wrong with this? But you feel all of a sudden that officer's just, he turns and he just like focuses in, and you're like, you feel it. And what a glorious deliver from those actors,
saw the face,
too.
and then he kind of changes, and then everyone's looking at him like going, maybe we're okay, but we're probably not. But maybe we're okay. And then, that's one good thing about Quentin Tarantino movies too, is that guy was a very cunning villain, where it's hard for us to find a good villain in almost any movie anyways, but he has them planted all over the movies.
Yeah, he's got great villains. He consistently has great villains, and it's great that a lot of his characters are also incredibly flawed people. They're
like anti-heroes or just villains themselves.
Villains themselves. I mean, again, right? We look at Pulp Fiction, or you look at, help me, God, why can't I? Reservoir Dogs. They're all bad guys. Everyone was a bad fucking guy, except one dude. There's one undercover cop, and everyone else is a piece of shit. But
and he caused everyone to get killed in the first place.
Yeah, but
pretty much.
Oh my God, though, Mr. Pink, fuck you mean you don't tip? I don't tip. Oh my God. And yet you find yourself endeared to Mr. Pink, despite his weirdness and the way his stance on things. Watching him talk, you're endeared to him. I don't want Mr. Brown. What the fuck I got Mr. Brown for? Someone else be Mr. Hey, let me be Mr. Pink. I'm not being Mr. Brown. I don't look like shit. What a weird conversation.
You're gonna be Mr. Blonde.
Yeah, it's great. It's a strange conversation, and it's endearing, and you love the talk. And yet it's a mob boss dictating how things are going to go, and it's watching all these henchmen based on, I'm not going to fucking do that. No, I'm not going to be that guy. Why would it? No, give me yours. I want yours.
It's like right before they're about to go kill those people, they in Pulp Fiction, they're talking about how to, is giving a foot massage considered to be cheating. I mean, these are things that you and I talk about.
Yeah, another thing, they're almost down to earth conversations, and the thing is, they don't feel forced, and that is a rare talent, to make an entire 7 people sit down and have a conversation about something and it feel genuine. It doesn't feel like they're reading from a script or they're just delivering lines, so to speak, despite how passionate they are. The conversation feels like it's just 6 buddies bullshitting. And what the fuck do you mean Nick doesn't tip? What do you mean doesn't tip? Nick, why don't you tip? Why don't you tip? It doesn't make sense. Why don't they just... It's crazy that we could sit down and have that conversation just in passing if that happened to us. And we don't have to be mobsters. We don't have to be, hired guns. We don't have to be hitmen or rigged boxers or anything of that nature. And he delivers it in such a way, or his actors deliver it in such a way, that you are just captivated by it. Because I think that's a big part of it. You can see yourself having the conversation. You can see yourself there sitting amongst these people. And that is just what a sense of immersion. And there's so little that directors, I think, really can pull that off. I don't have a lot. Even Robert Rodriguez, I think, is fun to watch. I think he directs very wild.
He's pretty much miss or hit, I call him, not even hit or miss.
Mr. Hit.
He has one good movie for every 6 crappy movies.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because his are so over the top. They're so weird. Like, what's that one? Planet Terror. What up? I did not like Planet Terror.
I like Planet Terror. I like that.
See, so which ones didn't you like of Rodriguez? Once Upon a Time in Mexico is not my favorite.
And I didn't hate it, but I didn't like how he kind of made it theatrical from the first 2.
Yeah.
I like the first one. The first one was okay, but everyone pretty much saw Desperado first.
Yeah, Desperado.
El Mariachi was good, but first of all, it wasn't Antonio Banderas. And the second one was obviously we have a little bit more money, kind of like what they did with Evil Dead. Let's just kind of do a redo, but make it look a little better.
Yeah, the reboot of a reboot, but it's not. Yeah,
right. And then the third one was literally just like, hey, I have some clout as a director. Look at all these famous people in my movie, and I'm like, oh, dude. I mean, it worked in Sin City, I would say, though.
Oh yeah, and there's a really good.
The first one, not the second one.
Yeah, but I kind of blame a portion of that too on Frank Miller, right? Frank Miller's writing is fun, and it was wild at the time, And I mean, again, I think they directed it just fine for the action sequences and stuff and comic book-esque nature that was there in Sin City. It's definitely not bad by any means. I just think. And
Quentin Tarantino directed a scene from that, by the way.
Yep, yes, he did. And I think that's and also Robert and Tarantino work together very well. They worked together on a lot of projects. What is it? 13 Rooms? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, was that the other one? Eli Roth also does stuff with him too.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's done stuff with them, and they've all worked together through film coming up. And again, I think 13 Rooms was the first big breakout kind of moments for both Robert and Tarantino. There's some really weird stories.
There's a couple other people in there too. There's
a ton. Directors. Yeah, there's like a bunch of directors. But I'm saying that was, I think, their first landing point, wasn't it? If I recall, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I think that was their first their first time behind the camera for both of them.
And they also share the same actors too, so maybe it was like Danny Trejo's was talking to Robert Rodriguez and said, "Hey, Bruce Willis, you should put him in a movie of yours," or something like that. I don't know, but
yeah. But no, they do.
they love
And they
each other.
use the same talent, and that's another thing that's kind of crazy, right? Tarantino uses the same talent consistently, and yet at the same time, the same talent never delivers the same scene. Isn't that wild? Isn't that strange? Now, Samuel Jackson maybe is the only one, but at the same time, you look at Django Unchained, his house slave
Django
character.
Unchained was like, I think probably my favorite Samuel Jackson performance ever.
It was a really good one and a very different one from, like, again, comparatively to Pulp Fiction, right?
Or Time to Kill maybe is my favorite.
Oh, Time to Kill is a good one. That's actually a good one too. Time to Kill is really good. But it's just fascinating to me that he constantly pulls in 5 or 6 of the same people over and over and over and over again, and every time they deliver a performance, I'm like, I don't even remember who you were in the other film now, because you're this other complete individual to me. You're this whole other. Who is it? Who is Kill Bill's brother?
His brother was Michael Madsen.
Michael Madsen, and he's in Hateful Eight, and he's
in a lot of his,
whole nother. But he's a whole nother person in that, and I forgot he was Bill's brother. I completely forgot he played that role.
Dumbass brother.
Yeah, until all of a sudden I was talking about with someone and they're like, yeah, I mean, he did a good in Kill Bill too. I'm like, oh, holy shit, he was in Kill Bill. Yeah, I totally forgot.
Yeah, he's the one who buried him. Who
buries the bride. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and thinking about it, though, I would probably be most scared of his little story, because being buried alive, man, even though she was able to do that little which I don't know. I mean, I find, even though it's a movie and it's supposed to be a little bit like
a little extreme, but
I don't know if this, like, someone could get as much chi from this little space, and then all of a sudden you see like dirt flying up, and I'm like, I don't know,
dude. Watching that part of the scene, that was definitely his, like, all right, this is extreme and it's corny, let's do it. And then that was corny for the sake of being corny. I feel like definitely a little out there, way out there. It was way out there. But that's Tarantino, right? You sit down and there's some part of his film that just takes it. So, like, everybody in Hateful Eight bleeding out. Everybody gets shot, and everybody is bleeding. There are gallons of blood in that film, and there's just no way they have the physical fortitude to hoist somebody up at the end of all of it, out of all that blood, and yet they truck on through. It's wild to me, wild. But again, that's the fantastical nature of his films too. The Django Unchained is a really, really.
Django Unchained, I was lucky. I just showed my wife that, and I've already seen it a few times. And I remember when I watched it, I was still in the military, and I was lucky enough to watch it with Chris Todd. And did I watch it with you?
I can't remember if you and I watched it. I don't remember who I saw it with the first time, to be honest.
But I remember watching it, and we went with a couple of our Navy buddies, and there was a few people that every time they would say the N-word, they would get really uncomfortable. And then I remember there was a black guy who was sitting a little bit further away from me, and he goes, "Dude, it's okay. It's a Quentin Tarantino movie. You enjoy this movie." I was like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Bad impersonation of every stereotypical black person, by the way. I'm sorry.
You did. You know what? You gave it your all. Okay. Hey. What, you do the Fonz, but you're black?
Hi. How's that? Is that better, guys?
It's way better. Thank you. There, every white person. Hi. How are you? Hi. Oh my God. But I mean, and that's the thing. It's funny. We have someone in our chat who didn't know who Tarantino was, and I mean, it's like he's just one of the best writer directors, I think, of this generation of cinema. And I can't even say this generation. The guy's old enough. He's been producing films since 1984, I think, is when he first started shooting.
Oh, wow.
I think. So I mean, like,
I didn't know that. I know his first movie was 92, I believe.
I think 4 Rooms is 84. Let's look it up. Let's find. We have the internet in our hands. We have knowledge.
It's not 84. It's definitely in the 90s. Because Madonna was when she was at
1995. Okay, so it was around the 90s he started. How old is Quentin Tarantino?
Well, his own thing was 92, and then 94 was Pulp Fiction. And then he helped Robert Rodriguez with Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, he's 57 years old. He's 57. So I mean, still, again, so.
And always been ugly. Always been ugly.
Oh yeah,
he's proof that you're a talented person. You don't have to be good looking.
No, you do not.
He looks like an alien.
He always looks angry. He looks like he has a perpetual scowl. No matter where he's looking.
It's going to pop out of his head.
Yeah, he does. But man, I mean, like, if you guys are curious or don't know like half of what they're talking about, do yourself a genuine favor. And I mean, go sit down and watch these. Any Tarantino film, pull it out. I don't care if it's Kill Bill. I don't care if it's Pulp Fiction. I don't care if it's just anything. 4 Rooms. Like, I literally go watch any of them. Reservoir Dogs, and you'll
True
have
Romance. He wrote True Romance too.
Oh yeah, True Romance. Yep.
Yeah.
You can go watch any of his stuff, and I mean, you're gonna walk away with it reminds me a little bit of Avengers, where Avengers did like 9 things all at the same time, and I felt like I was watching 9 separate little movies inside one movie, and that's Tarantino to a beat. Watching those conversations, you get so lost in them, and you forget where you are in the film until all of a sudden it totally flips the script on you. The watch, remember, like the Christopher Walken watch scene. What the
Oh,
hell?
Christopher Walken. Well, anything Christopher Walken's in. I mean, he might have. I just watching the top 10 music videos of all time, and I think he was on 2 of them.
No, that surprised me.
I mean,
Mr. Walken is a
you know, like
hero.
Fatboy Slim was one of them, and yeah, it's just
This
Christopher
is your
Walken. He has
father's
that delivery, which
watch.
is weird.
Yeah, just but like that, and that's
And
kind of my point.
he stuck this up his ass.
Yeah, he stuck this up his ass so he could get it back to you. Like he's such a. But
Yeah.
what a weird.
And oddly enough, it makes it much more captivating. Like the watch is now like that central reason for Bruce Willis's character to develop. He's like, hey, we were safe, we ran, we got away, but guess what? I forgot the watch, and that's why that whole crazy basement scene happens.
Yeah,
and I was close when I was doing the picture, making the picture up. Since you already had a samurai pose, I thought this would be the perfect situation to just replace you with Bruce Willis. But then it wasn't working. So
okay.
maybe next time.
Maybe next time. I'm not hurt, but anytime I get to almost take on the likeness of the god that is Bruce Willis, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I'm totally good with it.
You're secretly pissed off at me now, aren't you? Like,
I mean, yeah, the whole picture could have just been me as Bruce Willis, and it's fine. You could have done that whole scene and just put me in it. You didn't even need to be there. You could have been one of the Gimp guys. You know, we could have just called it good right there. But I'm not upset. I'm fine. Okay, I'm good with it. I'm okay with it. Okay, because you and I were friends, and it's fine. I'm good.
Sorry, buddy.
Well, I mean, so what do you want to say when you're on your closing thoughts? I mean, I think it was a sword from Kill Bill. I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look it up and find that out. What do you? I mean, just I feel like honestly, really, we've spent the last 30 minutes just blowing smoke and just saying how much we love Tarantino, and I think we've hit on, in a very roundabout way, that we love his storytelling, we love his directing, we love especially particularly the way he writes and the conversations that live in his films. I mean, is there anything else that you think you want to say to encourage the masses if they haven't hopped on board the old Tarantino bandwagon to get on there and just hang out for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that his best feature, to be honest with you, Brent, is I think he is not afraid to put content out there, regardless if it's about racism or about just bigotry in any kind of form. And he does it where most people fail and they look dumb. He'll put it out there and he'll put the message across and he'll unite people, I think. I really think that his movies unite people. I think that his larger than life characters like Samuel L. Jackson and stuff like that remind people of what it's all about anyways, when it comes to great movies, when it comes to great storytelling, and when it comes to, I guess, speaking to people anyways, the audience saying, hey guys, obviously like Django it's a fun movie. It's fun to see Jamie Foxx get all the revenge, he gets to kill all those evil white people. But at the end of the day, it shows disgusting portrayals of how, like, you see Leonardo DiCaprio watching 2 black men wrestling to the death, and you just see him sitting there like looking at them like they're two dogs.
Yep.
And even dogs is obviously unacceptable, but these are real human people. And I remember he had a conversation with Sidney Poitier, and Sidney said, hey man, if you don't show the truth, then you're not doing it justice. So don't be afraid to show anything. If that means throw as many N-words, throw as many black people getting hurt and being in cotton hot Alabama desert. Yeah, you have to show that truth, because it'll teach audiences and a lot of people who are closed-minded how to possibly love and how to try to connect.
Yeah, the genuine level of a lot of his films, and I think Django Unchained is one of it's very extreme. But when you look at the history of what it tackles and the idea of even what it's looking at, right? Like just the idea that like this man and this woman, this married couple, were split up just because they were then sold to be property of other human beings is a disgusting thing in and of itself. Just the nature of it automatically turns your stomach. But then showing everything else behind it and the mentality at the time, and then like how, especially right now, like the idea of intolerance rearing its head, even back when Django Unchained was there, still there is this level of intolerance boiling and poking out its head every now and again. And yet when you can see, even on a fabricated level of a film, but the idea, the mentality of like the truth of the situation, so to speak, the horrors that people would have had to suffer, just because they were believed to be lesser than is awful, and it should turn your stomach. And I agree, the genuine nature of his films can really help us open our eyes a bit in perspectively. I think that can be said, and again, there aren't maybe as many films with that overall nature, but I think the Django and Hateful Eight are two that tackle that idea very well, especially when considering during slavery with the Django, and then the one
Inglourious
after.
Bastards tackles the idea of what the Germans were doing too, and
Oh yeah, I mean, oh yeah, dude, definitely.
and then Hollywood, the Hollywood movie tackles what was going on in Hollywood and all the weirdness, and he even changed some funny things up. I like that. But
yeah, I like
yeah,
that
he likes to put like an odd, funny but serious like social commentary in his movies about like how people are, human nature or whatnot.
I like that, and I think that's the thing. I think you can walk away. Everything we've said and everything we've hit on. I think what you just said there is the social commentary tucked in the film is actually a lot deeper than I think we come to realize. I know I take for granted a lot of what those films tend to state because I'm so captivated by the film itself at the time. But like you said, I think it's a really good eye opener to dive in and see his films and really. There's a lot of substance there beyond what we're hearing conversation wise. Beyond why are we seeing things we're seeing? Why are the things that are happening? Why is this a scene in this film? And Tarantino has a lot you can dig into when you actually start to dissect each individual scene. And again, you can go back to, oh my God, what are they called? The Nazi one. I already forgot the name of it. Inglourious Bastards. You can go back into there and watch, especially like the opening scene, the animosity of soldiers at the time, especially the, Brad Pitt and his crew. And then the occupation of France at the time and kind of all that boil over the resistance, and then how you see and how you feel about that particularly, I think are very, very kind of cool commentaries on just those ideas, especially of rebellion and or insurgency for France there. Again, the animosity and the evil war between soldiers, what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable, and watching that whole scene. It's weird. You can feel good watching that scene, and yet at the same time, if you chew on it a little bit later, you should feel a little disgusted at the exact same time. It's wild. And I think you're right. I think the commentary.
That's how most of his scenes are, and they're connected. And like I said, we all love Leonardo DiCaprio and all these characters, but when you see Leonardo DiCaprio and you see this guy begging him like, "Hey, I fought my best for you," and yes, but you did run though, you did run, and I'm gonna have to punish you. And I'm sitting there doing just like, dude, you piece of shit, just leave him alone.
Yep.
And any movie, I remember watching Roots when I was a kid. And I remember thinking like, geez. And I thought, well, the movie was pretty brave, but then you see something like this, and it's just like you see everything. I remember watching 13 Years a Slave, and such a great movie. And those kind of movies, it's a good reminder. I don't necessarily. I'm not. I guess the best way for me to learn about certain failings, certain things in history is by movies. And sometimes, so like a Quentin Tarantino movie, if it shows the rawness of it, because other movies might show like, oh yeah, black people were enslaved, but or I might read in a book, but when I see like a 5-10 minute torture scene, I'm like, oh shit, this happened to Jesus. I don't like this. I don't like this.
I mean,
and
like, I mean, and I think it's a fair point. There's a lot of things that can move us as individuals, and I think we're a bit maybe even desensitized to film to a certain degree to see certain horrors and stuff like that. But I think the more you can make it, the more genuine it is, and the more of like, this is what happened to people. This was a thing, and it's something you can genuinely sit down and go, okay, hang on. Now I've seen, someone get their foot chopped off in Roots and that whole thing, right? Which is an awful scene, and it's very hard to watch. But, comparatively to like films that try and tackle slavery and a little bit more of a, the positive of running away and getting people out of slavery and all that stuff, when that's more the centric focus, when you revert back and you see, yeah, okay, so slavery was terrible. We wanted to get people out of there. People wanted to leave, obviously, because they want to be subjugated. But now we go into Django Unchained. We go into Hateful Eight. We go into anything that really tackles and says, yeah, they used to use people for dogfighting. That's what they saw them as. And when that scene alone, where you can sit there and pick it apart and just see the inhumanity of it and how awful it is, yeah, I think it helps us remember and recognize that mentality is possible for people, and without us at constant watch to ensure that we don't wander beyond that is a thing that did happen and is possible to happen again if we are not consistently aware that being intolerant and being things of this nature is terrible. And Tarantino shows that stuff consistently in all of his, in any film he tackles, he
That's
brings
beautiful,
that to the
Brent.
heart
I
of it.
like that.
I like it too. You did great, man.
Evenings with Brent, everyone.
No, they're easy, Nick, because you brought that point up, and I think that's a fascinating point. I didn't even think about, the actual what we're looking at social commentary wise, because I've always, you heard me, I'm captivated by so
Oh
much
no,
of the
yeah,
stuff.
of course. There are certain things I will say, like I watch something like Walking Dead, and the way they do their social commentary, I find it be a little flat out insulting. But I have no problem with any kind of issue that needs to be resolved as long as it's done tastefully in a show. But whenever someone pretty much looks right at a camera and says like, "Accept me for who I am," I'm looking at, I do, but someone like him, he has the balls to just say, I'm just going to make something very honest. It's going to be scary for me to do, especially him as a white man, but it's going to be scary for me to do. But I believe in the truth. I believe that this will break walls down instead of build walls up. So yeah, I'm all for him in a lot of different ways. But
That's awesome.
he is, I say probably top three of top tier directors of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could put him up there. His films are so good, they're hard to rewatch sometimes. And that's how I know I'm watching something good. When I'm watching something so good, it's making me so uncomfortable, despite how it comes through in the end or whatever, and it really gives me something to chew on. That's great directing. It's great directing, great writing, and he has
Yes,
several
sir.
films, so it's very hard for me to sit down and go, okay, let's watch that again, because it's so much. It's so much. But it's so good. It's so good. So, ladies and gentlemen, definitely do yourself a favor. Nick, I don't have anything else to say. I think you wrapped it up perfectly at the tail end there, in my opinion, for Tarantino. Is there anything else?
Yeah, let's go ahead and pick the next topic then. Let's do
Let's
it.
pick the next topic.
Yep, absolutely,
Dude,
my friend.
where's the cup of glory, the cup of joy, the cup of power? I'm just gonna keep
William
nicknaming
Henry
it.
Boyce Jr., The Fallen. I miss him. Brent, I think I brought Will to you a couple times. He was an officer in the Air Force, and I like to. It's one of those things. I'll see a big, tall black woman, and it'll remind me of him somehow. That's the kind of guy he was. He was a hero before he even went to the military, and it's an honor to be able to pull out his cup that he got me. So I love bringing it up, though. It's one of those things. I
love
love
it, man.
advertising them. I do it every single time I have to, because it's just like that's Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that, and you're a military brother too. So I'm sure that when you see a brother or sister, regardless of what they're even, and if they were the Army, maybe not, but but yeah. Anyways, it's nice to just. It's good that the stuff that you and I went through. It's good that we share that with a lot of other people, no matter what color or creed or anything they are. And I love that. But yeah, he was one of the good ones. So, anyways, here we go, everyone.
Come on, something good. This one was a great one. I love Tarantino. This was.
Yeah, I did too.
So happy to do this one. You got something great. It starts with an S, I think, or an S is involved. I thought I saw it.
Top 5 TV shows.
That is good. That's gonna be hard.
we'll see how that goes. So I'm guessing that was put in a comment. That was like our second video. I forget who that was from. I think that was Szymanski. I think David Szymanski, my buddy from here. Yeah, I think he did it, and he'll be watching the YouTube one. But he'll be happy to hear. He wanted me to talk about pretty much, I guess, just the best TV shows. I think Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, Sopranos. Let's do that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Perfect.
That's gonna be a little. I mean, not a little hard. 5 of them? I gotta get 5.
Well, let's not do 5. We'll just
do 5. We have to do 5.
The ones that are maybe
right?
the most inspirational, and we have to talk about something like for example, Sopranos. At least in my opinion, was like the first like hardcore like quality one, and then they all started copying from that. It seemed.
When did The Wire come out?
What's that?
When did The Wire come out?
Ooh, Wire came out. I think it came out like 2 years after Sopranos, maybe a year after.
Because
but Wire is fantastic too.
Freaking good, man, and that's what the Wire.
Okay, we'll talk about The Wire as well, but I'm excited. I would say that it would have probably been Game of Thrones would have been my favorite, but it has to be Breaking Bad because they stuck their landing.
Sopranos is about 1999, and The Wire was 2002. That's right. Yeah, it'll be fascinating because I have a lot of like other shows like particular. I mean, God, a lot of those are just made. Westworld. Jesus Christ, you got that. You've got The Walking Dead. You've got
even stuff like even like simpler things like Stranger
well, that's
Things and
Stranger Things is a great one. I think The Punisher was one of the best shows that has ever been produced, especially by Netflix.
Daredevil. If you want to talk about Punisher, Daredevil.
Well, Daredevil is
Definitely.
fantastic to watch too. Yeah, easy. I think that'll be a fun one to chew through.
Yeah, I think we'll have fun. Maybe we can have a little play a little game talking about like what's the number one and why, and then we have a little 5-minute little debate about it or something like that, and
Yeah, we could
tickle
do
each
that.
other's egos.
Because I think, oh man, that's gonna be hard for a top the number one, because I feel like Sopranos to me was just a little long in the telling. Was my only
It's
downside.
been 5 seasons. 5 seasons.
Yeah, it was just a little long in the telling. While like Game of Thrones was not too long in the telling, but Jesus fucking Christ, can you figure out what you were doing and maybe make these characters real? Because you were so
breaks my
close.
heart.
You were so close. And then
So close.
you got or True Detective. Jesus Christ, there's another great
True
one.
Detective. Well, the first season. I don't really care.
Yeah, I would say the first season. Well,
Third season was good too.
I think most people say that the first season of True Detective is one of the best. That's with Matthew McConaughey, right? That's the first season.
And Woody Harrelson. That one was just. And I think at that same time he was doing Dallas Buyers Club, and Matthew McConaughey just repainted himself again.
Personal faves. Yeah, I think personal faves would be correct. Did you know? I think I've told you this, but and I don't know if it still is, but it used to be the longest tracking shot of a consistent single shoot of a scene was actually from True Detective season 1, first episode, with Matthew McConaughey when that gunfight happens in the house, if I recall.
Oh, it's like the sixth episode.
Is that the sixth episode? I'm sorry, maybe a little further in the episode, but it's the one where basically the camera tracks with him the entire time as he moves.
I do know what you're talking about when he's talking like he's hanging out with those motorcycle buddies. And,
yep, there you go.
And then,
It was the longest. It had the world record for the longest single consecutive shot in film, and it was like a couple minutes. But I mean, that's impressive when you think about it. That's perfect movement. That's perfect everything put together to not screw up once. It's pretty impressive. But I thought that was neat about True Detective. I always think that's pretty cool.
Oh, I'll have to look at that. I like Matthew McConaughey a lot too. So
he does good work. Mud was good. Oh, I liked Mud. I liked Mud a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna get sidetracked. Nick, let's talk about our top 5 favorite TV shows next week. Let's do that. That sounds like a really, really good time. Thank you, Saminsky. You handsome devil, you. I appreciate it. I look forward to yelling about this now with Nicholas. This will be a really good time.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be fun times, my friend.
Okay, well, Nick, I mean, that's all I got. I want to just obviously thank the chat and everybody hanging out with us here. I know it's not on screen anymore, but I see you. Okay, we don't have time to yell at you guys the whole time, but I promise I'm reading what you're typing, and we appreciate you. If you don't catch us live,
I'm reading it too, my friends.
I've heard there's somewhere you can see this episode, this entire podcast, if you don't catch it live.
You heard correctly.
Really? Where's that,
I love
Nick?
how you help me. He's guys, I love him. Like, it's one of those things like, hey, Nick, tell him. Just tell him.
Let him have it. Break it down. Let him have it.
The Nerd Frenzy podcast, my friends. That's what we go by on Twitch. If you want to watch us live, it's Nerd Frenzy podcast, and YouTube. I do a little editing. I cut, all the last week. Brent did a little teasing. And he goes, "Hey Nick, we're live in 10 seconds, sir." And then all of a sudden, I'm just sitting there, just looking handsome. But then we're live now. So yeah, but it sometimes whenever we're going through a little stuff, I can see there's that 3 seconds of and I just cut that out. So if you don't want as much of that, but for the most part, yeah, guys, the Nerd Frenzy podcast on YouTube, and then the Nerd Frenzy podcast at gmail.com for anything you guys want.
You guys want to give us recommendations, hit us up. You guys can obviously even spit them out in chat periodically. We'll try and note them down. Or again, please put them in the comments. Hit us with an email, something like that. We love to hear it because it's cool. I know we have a couple in that cup, and now we actually have, this is our second draw of a viewer recommended. I think we got one from our boy Uncanny Jingles in there. We got
one from Keaton, my sister,
that's
too.
That's right. Keaton put one in there. Yes, she did.
Yeah, she did the Quentin Tarantino, actually.
And actually, your wife did Harry Potter, right? She's the one who put Harry Potter.
Yeah, and I know you love that one. That's a favorite for you.
A+ work. I love the Spelly Promise, whatever it is. So, I actively went to say that wrong because I'm a bad person and I am the worst. But yeah, so Nick, I enjoy these talks every week, every damn week. It brings me so far back, and it reminds me of the special. And again, it just reminds me of our bond. It really, how we became so close was just doing this crap, just sitting in empty apartments, having drinks when we didn't have any furniture, and just suffering through the slog of the Navy together. It was just fascinating, man, and I just love having these conversations. So I appreciate you sitting down with me every week and doing this.
Oh, Brent, I love you, man. I enjoy these. Like I said, we get giddy. We our biggest takeaway from this whole thing, which obviously the audience understands, you guys all get it, is we don't know how to stay on topic and we don't care. And it's just one of those things. There's no pressure. So I love it. I'm going to keep on doing this with you until I can't anymore. And we're going to have some fun.
I love it, bud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that gets it here for us. Nick, I love you. We will see you later. I'll give you your time back. I know that you probably sit there and think, I never want this to end, but one of us has to be the adult, and we have to stop it. I know. One of us has to. And you know what I noticed? We love the Minnesota Goodbye. We're doing it right now. So this is it. I'm calling it, okay? We're done. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for tuning in to episode. We made 10 episodes, by the way.
That's right. Our 10th anniversary.
We're the best. We talked
Nothing special happened. You'll get anything from us.
We did it for 10 hours. We're the best. No one's ever done anything like this in the history of man.
Oh, I love it.
But thank you, Nick, so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
Take care, brother. I love you. Love you guys. Take care.
We are out.
The Nerd Frenzy Podcast.